Alright, 475W. 10 millimeters on the pump. Millimeters on the neutral switch. If the speed sensors were in here, they'd be 8 millimeters also. Real early models would have a speed sensor here also. 13 millimeters on the tail housing. Look inside your connector right here. If it's full of fluid, you need to replace your pass-through connector. This one's got fluid in it. Now, on getting the pump out, you can either use a slide hammer. I just use the same bolts I use for the Chrysler front pumps. And I started in there. And I get a heel bar. This one happens to be adjustable. And I get on there and I kind of hold pressure against it. And I'll give it a little whack right here. And it comes right out. There's different setups for this part right here, depending on what motor you got. And there's different setups for the piston. Make sure you're not got any chunks out of the molded piston. 10 millimeters on the stator. Make sure you're not ring cutting here. No surface is not messed up. Make sure our gears don't have too much play in the pocket. They're not scored up. Everything looks good there. On the pump. Alright, flames are popping off. Okay, somebody changed the gasket. These come with a reusable gasket. Pull your filter off. Pull your hard wire off. Eight millimeters on the valve. 10 millimeters on this plate. Okay, your snap ring is broke. I always replace this plate. Every one of them is cracked. I've never seen one that was not. I'll get it to you. Good view of that. See if the light will hit it just right. You can see the crack. See all the spider cracks in there? Alright. Make sure accumulators feel good and there's no chunks missing out of them. Those accumulator springs right here. These two are the worst ones about breaking. They go on the top of here. This one here is the next worst about breaking. And that one that goes down here is not quite as bad, but I've seen several of them. Reverse servo. These are almost always hardened on the rubber. This one is. And most all of these, this one's a 2 groove. Grooves right here. Most of them are 3. Yeah. See, our snap ring here is broken. Both ends are broken, so we're going to have to get creative about getting it out of there. And this is what I do. I get my 350, actually it's GM, it does 350s and 4L60s, low reverse spring retainers. Don't remember where I bought it. I think I bought it from A-Tech Trans Tool back in the day. I've modified it. This comes with the spot weld down here. Buzzed the weld off of it, drilled it, tapped it, put a bolt in the washer to hold the end on when I want to use that. But then when I want to use it for this, I screw the bolt back into the end of it. I drilled a couple holes in here. If you want all the dimensions, I gave all that in the rebuild video. I take this end, short end, and I'll put this on here. And I'll put this one right up here. And you gotta screw that down. I'm going to spin the snap ring around where it's past this opening right here. May have to change this out. Yeah. go. I keep various sizes of these so I can do different things with them. I don't never wear one all the way down unless I can help it. Alright, now I'm going to take this and we're going to cut us a notch all the way down to the snap ring groove. Alright, I think that's enough. Now we're going to push the snap ring back around. Here's my other opening. Should be enough. Get a scribe with a point. It may not be wide enough. Maybe I can just get my screwdriver in there. And let me go back and make that notch wider. Keep several different scribes around also for various reasons. Alright, I think I need a little bit more. Alright, I think that'll do it. Back around there. Get this started up. There we go. Now what I do is I keep one of these pins around. I don't really use it anymore. I keep one of the pins around. You can stick it in there if you want to and see if the case is wore out. This one's not very bad at all. I don't even check them anymore. I always put a Sonax overdrive servo pin in it so I don't have to worry about whether the case is wore out or not. Now I have had, you might want to check them sometimes because I have had a couple cases that were so wore out I don't think a Sonax pin would work. Then you need to sleeve it. Most of the time I'm putting the Sonax pins in them. They're intermediates. This band almost always burnt. This snap ring right here, when the clutches in the back let loose, this thing will spin so fast it'll make this snap ring and everything fly off. I make a spiral snap ring that you can put here if you want, I only do it if it's spun this off because it's so deformed you can't get it back into shape, so I'll put one on then. Otherwise I just leave it alone. This is our reverse clutches. This bevel plate right here is fairly bad about cracking, so keep an eye on that. Usually, or a lot of times, what makes it crack is the people, well, where the split is, they'll put that split right there, and that tends to make these crack. Always put that opening right there. You can either shoot air into here, or you just get a screwdriver and pop it out. Make sure your sprag usually sounds a little more pronounced than that. Make sure it turns one way and locks the other. You can swap this out for the earlier roller style if you want. Watch this drum right here where the snap ring groove is. They're very horrible about breaking. Haven't had one broken quite a while. Sonax makes a heavier duty drum if you want to put it in there. This belt cushion plate, really bad about cracking. These clutches are the worst about flaking off, and it'll destroy the steels. When you got your shaft in there, you can see it's just turning. That drum's totally stripped out. You also look at the back of your drum here, make sure these splines aren't stripped out. I've only seen one. Hub's okay. And a rattle clip. These shells are real bad about beating out in here. This is not too bad. I'd run that again. I've run them worse than that. Make sure that this is not cracked. This weld here is not cracked. Make sure no teeth are chipped or pitted. Make sure our bearing's not pitted. These snap rings on the center support are real bad about breaking. They got two different styles of this. They got this style. This is light style. Early style is a spring that's wound around a couple turns and got a couple ends on it. I show it in the rebuild video if you want to see that. You can swap this out for that. These lugs are real bad about wearing out. This one's pretty worn out. There's our low sprag. Reverse band. These red lined ones are horrible about the lining wearing out. This one's worn out. If you can find the green ones, get the green ones. This bearing right here. Alright, come on off of there. This bearing right here and this bearing right here, these two are the worst two bearings in here about blowing up. I'd kind of recommend that you replace them. This drum is real bad about those splines stripping out, which is what I was showing you a minute ago. nose splines. And they're also really bad about cracking right here. Almost every one of these I'm replacing this drum in it. Pull this out. This is our ring gear. Make sure there's no teeth chipping in there. Now where these rings ride in the back of the case back here, make sure it's not ring cut back in there. What ring cuts those is that there's a bushing up there in the back of that case. Replace that on every one. That's what causes the case to get ring cut. I think that's about it. Let me go take this apart. Here's our return spring, retainer, and snap ring for the forward drum. Our piston, our return spring, snap ring for the overdrive direct, and our piston. Let me go right this one up, and we'll be back. Alright, this is what we're going to do on this one. LS kit, which is a kit with clutches. 4x4 filter. Almost every one of these has a 4x4 filter, even if it's two-wheel drive. It's got that little hump on the pan. That little hump. It's a 4x4. The filter's got that little snout on it. Pump bushing always. Case bushing always. Overdrive band, almost every single one of them is bad. That pin, a Sonex overdrive servo pin, always replace it. Almost every one of these I'm putting a reverse servo in it. This one's 2-groove, the reverse band, the center support, overdrive direct drum. There's a good one and there's a crappy one. There's a Chinese one. Spend a couple extra bucks and get the good one. I don't know why I need to write down good one, but if you don't write down, they're going to buy the cheap one, and it's not worth the crap. It will crack on you. There's two different plates for the valve body. The one they used to always sell was a KO92. I had it, damn near every one that I had in a truck was coming back complaining about a very slow 1-2 harsh shift. And it wasn't really harsh, but you could feel it, and it was a little thumpy. It took them forever to finally go back to the factory hole, and that's what this one is, KO192. That has a factory size feed hole for it, which is 72 thousandths, I believe. The other one's like 92 thousandths, something like that. Anyway, you want to use this one especially if you got it in a truck, seems like. Shift solenoid assembly, replaced it on damn near every one. The pass-through connector, because it's leaking, and then on the torque converter, if you give them your engine size and which way the little, in fact I ought to take it out there and show it to you. The way that the vanes are leaning on your torque converter, they'll either be leaning left, almost straight up and down, or to the right. And you want to put exactly the same one that came out of there, especially on these trucks. I've run into it on the others too, but on the trucks you're going to make it about 4 or 5 miles, and then it's going to start throwing a code for PO741 torque converter stuck off. And it's not, it'll be applying, you'll watch it on the scanner, it'll say it's locked up, and you can feel it lock up, but it's going to keep throwing that code until you put the right stall torque converter in it. So let's go out here and see these lines right here. It's leaning to the left, or it might be straight up and down, or it'd be leaning to the right. That's the stall that's on your torque converter. See how that one's leaning right, that one's leaning left. Alright, that should be all we have on this one. Catch you on the next one.